it's time for Jon Hudson, the fedora-wearing UFO specialist, and the Unbiased UFO Report coming on in with some great news. How you been doing, buddy?
Good. Yourself, man?
I'm good. I am very good. I got my new hat today, my new Merle shirt today.
Oh, nice. I really like the hat. The hat's good.
Yeah, I got my new watch today, so I'm all good.
Oh, I'm all good. What's the watch?
That is a diesel watch right there.
Oh, I was worried it was a Merle watch. Okay, good.
No, I wish it was a Merle watch. I'm a big diesel. I'm a big diesel watch guy.
Yes. No, I remember you showing me. They make some beautiful stuff. It's in a nice range.
Very true. Very true. Yeah, and that said, without Diesel sponsoring us, just so you know.
Yeah, totally.
I would like Diesel watches to sponsor us. So if you're listening, Diesel, I work for watches, man. Who cares about the money? You just want the watches. All right, let's get right into it, my friend, because one of the most mysterious people in ufology is a gentleman named THAL Puthoff, who has worked in some of the deepest, darkest secret offices in the United States, from remote viewing to UFOs. And recently on Twitter, mathematician, I apologize.
Eric Weinstein
was absolutely flabbergasted about some information that came out about UFOs. So what do you got going on for us?
Okay. So a teeny bit of background. So Eric Weinstein, I've talked about him several times. I will admit bias. I like the guy, and he does a lot of podcast stuff. He does a lot of work with Lex Friedman, and he kind of boasts as being the mathematician on Twitter with the most followers. I heard him talk about it, somewhere north of 500,000 followers, and he's a pretty wicked smart dude, and basically he finally got it drilled into his head recently that maybe just small possibility, maybe some of these UFO things are for real, right? And the crazy thing was that he was shocked, and watching him go through this process has been a really good educational experience for everyone, because you can kind of see he also goes through almost like stages of grief, right? He goes through periods where he gets angry and he starts lashing out at people. He's like, well, how can me in academia, how can my friends in academia who are in these crazy good roles, not know about this, and it's going on, getting really upset, right? Well, basically, this gentleman by the name of Blake Truelove, who I'm not familiar with, somehow finagled an interview where it's really a meeting really between THAL Puthoff and Eric Weinstein. And this is a big deal because essentially from the very first day that Eric started coming out on Clubhouse about UFO knowledge, myself and many other people started telling him, you need to talk to THAL Puthoff. You need to talk to THAL Puthoff. You need to talk. We get like all of it. Like, and I can't imagine how many people he was probably getting sick of hearing it, And so for this to finally happen is just like epic. And unfortunately, being probably a good marketing guy, Blake is only teasing out a small portion of it and not the full interview yet. But I want to read this little portion to you because it's very impactful. So basically what it is it's Eric Weinstein saying to THAL Puthoff, the role of aerospace companies as holders of potentially basic scientific knowledge and not share it with the academic world seems very wrong to me. And HAL responds with, well, it may be wrong, but it's true. And Eric responds with, it's true? You believe it's true? And HAL responds with, yeah, I know it's true. And Eric responds with, you know that there are physics knowledge held by aerospace companies that is not shared by and HAL cuts him off and says, well, there are certainly materials knowledge that involve topological physics that is well better known within these realms, or something along those lines. I'm screwing up the last of it. But I mean, essentially this was HAL putting down, I was actually surprised he did this, but but basically this was HAL being very assertive and saying, look, This is not something I believe. This is something I know. I know this to be true. And it was a very interesting exchange. And if that's anything like what the rest of the interview is, man, I'm going to be there with popcorn.
Wow. Hal Puthoff does not make a lot of public appearances.
No.
You know, never mind his age. I mean, he's in his mid-80s. He is still one of the most controversial people in ufology. I think that's a very fair statement. He's part of the Stars Academy. He's worked closely with the CIA. He's worked closely with Robert Bigelow, the United States Defense Department.
But
He has
also
done everything.
Yeah, but I'll say he's also an incredibly articulate, very well spoken, and for the roles that he's had, a surprisingly communicative, person with a little bit of charisma, and his communication style is effective. And so I really wish that he could come out more and talk, because man, every single time I hear that guy talk, I learn something new, and that's not very common for me. So I adore the guy.
This is going to be an interesting interview when it gets released.
My goodness, yes.
I mean, because Eric Weinstein is one of the most highly commended mathematicians in the United States.
Yes.
And, I mean, to put the equivalent for people who don't understand, he would be mathematics equivalent of Neil deGrasse Tyson almost. I mean, how many mathematicians?
Yeah.
How many mathematicians have over 500,000 followers on social media?
Yeah,
There's not many.
I think that's very fair. I think that's very, very fair. And Eric's a very typical math whiz in that essentially he went into finance, and so that's a lot of his broadcasts are on finance. But he's a wicked smart dude. He's a fun, in my opinion, a very fun person to listen to interview, because he shows a lot of raw expression when he's discussing stuff, and Eric's one of those few people around that I really hope to meet someday. I think pretty highly of him.
Okay, yeah, but the point that I'm getting at is it's very easy when you have somebody of Eric Weinstein's accreditation getting into UFOs to be able to talk to someone like Hal Puthoff. When you're at that educational level, it's easy to talk to the big boys, so to speak.
You would hope so. You would seriously hope so. I don't, I don't know. You would seriously hope so. I don't know if that's true or not, but
the point that I'm getting at is this conversation that took place. What impact could this have?
Oh, well, the ramifications could be deep and far-reaching, because of the fact that Eric Weinstein is not only a finance guy that's well known, and a math-focused individual that's very, very, but he's into the social aspects of academia, right? And so he gets involved in a lot of discussions. There's a lot of podcasts. He does a lot of clubhouse things. So he's a very outbound individual. His brother is also a very accomplished outbound individual, and there's a lot of people that listen to him, and there's a lot of other very smart people that listen to him who themselves have podcasts that have impressive follower lists. And so the result of all this is that this interview is going to touch. It's not necessarily going to touch a completely different group than, say, like what's his? Oh, I forget his name now. I'll remember it later. But some of the newer guys, right? But it is certainly, I don't know. To me, it's going to be absolutely fascinating. I mean, I'm so looking forward to seeing this interview.
All right, let's move on to topic number 2 before our break here, and we'll probably end up continuing it right through there. There was a major UFO sighting over Texas.
Yeah, with JetBlue, man. I was like, man, I don't have maybe flown on JetBlue, but like, it's actually nice. They do, like, some of them actually do like the blue lighting. It's very relaxing. But yeah. So I mean, this is and the thing that's so great about this. Well, actually, you know what? Here, let me take that back. Let me read some of what was written about it. So basically, the JetBlue pilot reported seeing what he said was a UFO that was transforming, his words, in midair at 37,000 feet over Texas. The footage appears to have been taken from inside the cockpit, and it shows a white dot hovering in the distance. And the video is unfortunately not super exciting. Without the testimony, it wouldn't be worth very much. But essentially, the clip was posted by a Reddit user who claimed to be a friend of the pilot, who claimed the encounter happened last week. In it, the white spot can be seen disappearing before coming back. And essentially, the pilot is said to have noted that there was nothing showing on the radar for air traffic control, nothing showing on air traffic collision control avoidance systems at the time the video was taken. He added that it was over Texas at 4:20 p.m. Eastern Standard, ground speed 37,000 feet. We witnessed for about 5 minutes, at which point it disappeared and then came back. It looked like two boxes melding into each other. The actual sighting was spectacular beyond what the video shows. We were stunned. This is a great sighting, and this guy did a really nice job of collecting the right kind of data and doing it in, for the most part, a very unemotional way, but then showing that he was impressed, right? Like, I mean, there was an emotional aspect of it for him too. I hope the way this was reported encourages other people to report this way. I think this is a really good way of reporting this.
Well, the big thing that we have to look at, and we'll get into the pilot's encounter here momentarily, but the big thing we have to look at here too is the safety of it all. Because look, when you're traveling at 500 knots or 500 miles per hour as per ground speed, you have to understand that those windows close very quickly between you and another craft. If that other craft is going at 500 miles an hour, you have a combined speed of 1,000 miles an hour going into each other. That gives you literally maybe a minute to react. Okay,
which is why that automatic collision avoidance systems that most planes have is so bloody critical.
Exactly. But this also brings up a good point too. Okay, we have seen numerous people in the UFO world highly critical of pilots recently. We've all been asking for decades, John, for pilots to speak up about what they saw, because they never did for fear of losing their job.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And now that we are starting to get pilot reports,
with good reason,
we have all of these amateur aviators who, most of them have never flown an airplane before, stating that, oh, it's a balloon, oh, it's flares, oh, it's a Japanese lantern, or Chinese lantern. I mean, these people are trained to see everything. And when you have 100 people, 200 people, or in the case of a 747 or a 787, where you got 500 plus people on an aircraft, okay, that's a lot of responsibility on someone's shoulders.
You have to take it very seriously.
Yes, they do.
No. They take it very seriously, and we all adore them for it. I'm someone who's spent a lot of time on airplanes, and I'm very, very grateful. But you're dead on. There's tremendous pressure on them, and if you think about it, like, I don't want to put anyone in tears, but if you compare someone who flies professionally and provides professionally from the point of view of lives at risk, right? Whether that be a commercial pilot or whether that be a military pilot, that is a different level of intensity and a different level of observational intensity that is going to change the way they observe things.
And we are talking about this incredible story over Texas that happened last week, where a JetBlue pilot actually caught a video and photograph of a UFO at 37,000 feet. I mean, this is incredible, John. And
sorry, go ahead, please.
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say is what I love about this is it a couple weeks ago, or maybe it was a couple months ago now, we all a lot of us got involved in this discussion about how important it was that pilots report what they see. And there was one sighting, I forget what it was. There was some pilot sighting that happened a couple months ago, and people kind of talked about like what they should be reporting and so forth. And it's almost like this guy watched all that content. and then went and saw one and went, oh, okay, this is what I should do then, right? Like, it's awesome. Like, I mean, he got he didn't catch down every detail. Sure, there's lots of stuff that I'm sure people would love it, but he got the basics. He got the coverage. This is a beautiful, beautiful case. He got video, he got a picture, he got a great description. The only thing that's unfortunate is, like many things, the images aren't as impressive as what he saw with his own eyes. But it's a great description. It's a little unfortunate that he had to report it through a friend, but baby steps. We're getting there. And the thing is that to me, like okay, so what I'm hoping this is a preview of is what we see in the near future, and that is that we see a JetBlue pilot report something like this, but it gets reported by JetBlue as well, right? And then we see this new office out of the Pentagon, right, basically respond as well and say, hey, there's lots of people looking into it. We're looking into it as well. If we can share anything, we will. And then, some couple months later, some couple weeks later, we get some report that, has, 30-40% of the truth in it.
Well, I mean, the whole point is, though, this is also a very positive trend that aviation pilots, whether they're commercial, whether they're private, or even military now, don't have to fear about losing their wings all because of a UFO report. I mean, this is what's really massive, John.
Yeah. Well, and in this case, there still was a little bit of hesitation because if you notice, this was reported through a friend. The pilot himself did not report, so the pilot is still remaining anonymous, right? But I mean, that once again, I get it. Like I'm not sure I would do anything different. We need baby steps. Yeah, I'm not good at that game.
Well, I mean,
hey,
looking
you
at
know what though? Yeah,
hold on.
It looks better here.
Looking at the video, let me explain it for our radio people.
Yeah, please.
The pilot is looking at it's not a good, strong video. It's obviously from a phone that he's capturing this, and it is a white round object. And of course, the how can we put this? Oh, there we go. I hate it when that happens.
Yay.
Hate it when that happens. Trying to watch a video and it's pop up after pop up after pop up. I apologize to our YouTube crowd, but the video shows a tiny a tiny white dot in the blue sky mixed with clouds, and you could clearly see it is not a cloud. You could clearly see, that
and it looks a little fuzzy. It's a little elongated, right? And the thing is, it's the kind of thing where if you were looking right at that space in the sky, you would catch it. But if it was in your peripheral vision, I'm not sure you would. Because it blends really well. It blends really well.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those things really that you really have to be commendful that the pilots do it. And like we were saying right before the break, in the UFO world, a lot of these pilots, whether they're military or commercial, have been taking a lot of heat from amateur ufologists, basically saying, "Oh, that's a balloon, that's a hot air balloon, that's a whatever it may be, swamp gas. Call it whatever you want." All right, people who've never flown a plane before, who just have to be skeptical for the sake of being skeptical. And I think what we are seeing here is and I'll ask you this: are pilots going to be the new negative for commenting on UFOs because of their position?
Oh, well, I mean, I mean, sure, I guess it's possible. I would be shocked. I mean, to me, that's a very, very unlikely scenario because essentially that would require a bunch of different variables to flip in certain ways. I don't think that's likely. I think what's more likely is that you were to start to get to a point, and I do think this is going to happen, and I worry about this. We're going to get to a point in the not too distant future where these reports are going to become too common. and there's a chance that it'll turn into noise. And I would say that's a bigger risk to me.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm getting at. I probably didn't use the best terms there, but I mean, if more pilots come out saying that they are establishing sightings and reporting sightings, I mean, you look at the criticism David Fravor has got, or Alex Dietrich, and others have received on this, and these are people flying, multi-million-dollar aircraft.
Right, but that's the thing is that we get this reduced to a more mundane thing where the pilot that reports it doesn't get put on a pedestal, and they don't have to run around and do things on stage. They can just report what they saw and then keep their jobs and move on with their lives, right? And think about it, like imagine if we get to a point in the future where someone like Cheryl Costa has enough of these that it starts getting included in her data. Like, how awesome would that be, right?
Could be. We'll have to see.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, I'll just say point, just to agree with you, is that it's a very positive, outcome, and I think it bodes well for the future.
All right. A slide seemed to come out as we move on in topics here. We got about 5 minutes left. A slide seemed to come out about the new version of the AATIP threat scenario. What's this all about?
Well, and the thing is I do apologize because I wanted to do some more digging as to when and where and exactly how this slide came out, because it is a version of an earlier slide that had circulated in some circles, and with some different information, some different phrasing, and some things that were blacked out before are no longer blacked out. So this is the most complete version of the slide that I've seen. But what I find very interesting is, and here, let's real quick for everyone listening. Let me just read some of this real quick, just to kind of get the highlights. So it's a DoD threat scenario slide on the AATIP sub focus area. So this is one of the slides that came out many moons ago. That was basically the AATIP deck, right? Like, what does AATIP do? This is what AATIP does, right? And so they're talking about, that the science exists for an enemy of the United States to manipulate both physical and cognitive environments in order to penetrate U.S. facilities, influence decision makers, and compromise national security. These include psychotropic weapons, cognitive human interface, penetration of solid surfaces, instantaneous sensor disassembly, like what was seen at Skinwalker Ranch, alteration manipulation of biological organisms, anomalies in space-time construct, unique cognitive human interface experiences. It goes on to list DoD advantages. There's a kind of a weird quote at the bottom that says what was considered phenomena is now quantum physics. I'm not sure how I feel about that, but I can understand what they're getting at. And essentially, to me, this is just a more supportive slide of what we had before. However, I have seen several people seem to be getting upset about this slide, and I'm not quite sure exactly what they're upset about. And maybe someone else can, enlighten me as to why this might be upsetting for people. It's not clear.
Okay, so looking at this slide, a couple things jump out at me. Psychotronic weapons. I don't even understand, and I don't think most people would understand what these are, John.
Correct. Yeah, but it's basically I would have to look up the strict definition, but essentially it typically has to do with it's using visual optics and lights and so forth to essentially confuse and to manipulate and to show alternate versions of things, and you can do some pretty crazy stuff. It's pretty nutty. It's pretty. Some of the stuff seems more fun than practical. But I'm sure they figured out ways to do it.
Okay, one other thing that kind of jumps out at me about this is where it says anomalies in the space-time construct. I mean, to me, maybe it's because I have wishful thinking. That sounds like time travel.
So, yeah, no, I wouldn't take it that way. What I would take that to mean is that they are seeing visual artifacts that that match predictions on what a wormhole might look like, or what a portal might look like, or what a collision with another dimension might look like. And I would say that's probably a more accurate way of phrasing it, because the thing is that you look at, like, when Dr. Eric Davis saw what he did in IR on Skinwalker Ranch, one of the things he specifically stated was that the geometry that he saw in that object that was in the air looked, he said, I couldn't go measure it, and he was, but it looked a lot like the math that he had worked on a previous role, where he was trying to figure out something similar, and it really caught him off guard. It was surprising for him.
John, there are 2 points on here that I find probably the most important read between the lines scenarios here. Number 1, DOD has relationships with renowned subject matter experts. Who are these experts? I would love to know. And number 2, DOD. Well, can I finish? You don't mind, do you? DOD controls several facilities where activities have been detected. I mean, this is huge, these 2 statements.
Yep.
Huge, John.
Yep.
Okay, you mentioned Hal Puthoff.
Yep. Well, yeah, because I mean, the thing is that, I mean, if you look at it, right, I mean, you know, all these experts that they're talking about, you know, these are folks like something like the Jasons, right? Basically, like groups of researchers with different specialties all over the country, that they know, you know, hey, I know that if I need someone to look at welding, I'm going to go to that guy that Ross Coulthart interviewed, right? Because he was that Navy, you know, guy that, you know, was doing all the research on welding advancements, right? So you get to know, like, who to go to and who to attach with. And the thing is that, to me, you know, to me the more impactful and shocking aspect of this is that what we're seeing in writing here is that that this was used. Well, it's implied that this may have been used to actually compromise security. And you know, when you merge this with what we reported the other day of that individual seeing a shadow person in a top secret facility and not reporting it for fear of ridicule, this starts getting interesting.
It does get interesting. But the secrets, John, the secrets, like, this means that if they have control over several facilities where activities have been detected, this means there is way more going on out there than just what we're all choosing to look at Skinwalker Ranch.
Yes. However, yes. However, you could argue that this entire list was derived from Skinwalker Ranch. Now, I have no reason to know that's true, but what I'm saying is that you could argue that, and so that could be the case. Which just means that they're using a special situation to extrapolate to what the big picture might be. So saying, because it's happening at Skinwalker, it could also be happening and is likely happening elsewhere.
Well, no, I understand that, but the fact that the United States government is working on these facilities wherever they may be, not only in the United States or maybe elsewhere, I mean, we haven't heard this before.
Yes, correct. Yeah. I'd like to know if they're hiring.
Oh, so do I, dude. So do I. You know, I mean, I just don't get it. John, we will talk to you very, very soon. Thank
Always
you,
a
buddy,
pleasure,
for
sir.
another great edition of the Unbiased UFO Report.